Chesley, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good. You doing all right? Yeah.
It's been a long morning for you. You were here at the time I left at midnight. You came in at midnight. You've been watching this all night long here, and you were here for really the time that it was most active. When I was here at 11 o'clock, we were watching that freezing line coming in from the north and east, and it was approaching Atlanta.
Right.
But while you were here, that's when that freezing line came into Atlanta. How did you see that transition kind of taking place, and then what we see on radar versus what was happening outside?
Well, it was starting to take over. So really you're starting to see this pink area here that was making its way from the northeast down to the southeast and included Atlanta. It got as far down as Henry County.
Yeah.
Down toward Stockbridge, those areas down there. Now, it fell as rain and then began to freeze over. And it didn't take long for it to begin to collect on some of the elevated surfaces like railways and some of their wooded patios, those kind of things. We started to see that. Even some of our reporters showing the plastic furniture out in the hotel and how it was collecting. And that's what happens with freezing rain. Typically it freezes on contact. Obviously temperatures were getting down into the 20s in a lot of spots, especially up toward the northeast where we thought it would be the highest totals. And that's what we've been seeing. Now, another thing that happened was sleet started to mix in.
Yes,
And once that sleet started to mix in, it looked and appeared as snow on the ground, but really it was that sleet piling up with some freezing rain mixed in, and so you had a nice little layer of ice, not only on the grassy surfaces or on those elevated surfaces, but also on the roads.
And it's been interesting to watch how it's really, as we've been trying to tell people, it is the impacts of the wedge, how strong that wedge is going to be, how long it's going to hold on out there. And in seeing what we have here, it's been, the wedge is what we call it, but there is a meteorological term called cold air damming, where the cold air comes in, it gets kind of dammed up by the mountains and just kind of drains down here in our area. And a lot of times West Georgia isn't even impacted by the wedge. And even though they were in the ice storm warning, really Rome has been looking good. We haven't really seen much action there in Rome, and it's all been mainly concentrated in that northeast segment where we were talking about where those impacts would be higher. Now, even though northeast Georgia, the impacts are higher, we do have some here in Metro Atlanta, and it depends on where you live in Metro Atlanta.
That's absolutely right. We still have cameras that are frozen over.
Yes.
And then we have some cameras that look good, right? And so generally speaking, in Atlanta so far, we've seen about 1/10 of an inch of ice, and people probably think, well, that's not enough to really cause any problems, but it really is. Especially on some of the back roads, not the treated roads like the highways. You look at the highways, it's fine. And I think people forget that we were urging them to stay at home. I remember you saying, hey, once the sun is down, go home. Can you imagine if people stayed on the roads?
I know.
This would be a nightmare.
This would. And we've got those elevated surfaces, and not all roads are icy in the metro area.
That's right.
And that could be a little even more dangerous, because you might get out there and the road might not be icy where you are, and you're like, oh, this is fine, and you're starting to go 45, 50 miles an hour, and then you do hit a bridge or overpass that is still icy, because they couldn't treat everything.
That's right.
Treat it as much as they could, especially on those side roads. You've got to be extra, extra careful. I called my wife this morning. I spent the night at the station here. You spent the night. Where did you
I went home. I went home and came back.
He got here. He knew that he could get back in time. But we live in Gwinnett, and she was saying that our street in front of our house looked like a sheet of ice. Not a thick sheet, but a thin sheet of ice, which is really very dangerous still, too.
Absolutely.
So it's just in different areas. Cobb, not as bad, although when I looked at the Truist camera just a little while ago, it's frozen over. So there are freezing stuff there. And so I think what a lot of people are seeing, though, the ground temperatures may be helping the roads a little bit, but if you look into the trees, you're seeing some of the ice, not crazy thick here, but it's still in that North Georgia area that we're watching. And then Chesley, we're not finished. We're not finished yet with this. And people are we're in this lull, but we still have this to come through. And based on what we've been watching and what you've been seeing during the overnight hours, this is going to slide through here. Our temperature now is still holding near freezing.
Yeah, right at 32.
And we're thinking we're going to come up a little bit as this rain comes in, which would help us. But still, it may not in northeast Georgia. And this is going to be heavy rain. So if it's still freezing there, that's going to add a lot more to those trees.
Temperatures there are in the 20s right now. So I don't think, well, hopefully, if it can get up that high, great. But I think we'll still have some issues, especially, I'm going to say northern Gwinnett County, Hall County, and further up to the north. That's what we'll be looking at for now, because in places like Canton, for example, we still have temperatures right around 29 degrees. And so as that rain comes in, it's going to change over to pink and purple over in this area. So that's just going to add to what we've already seen, maybe even more, because that shield is a little bit heavier than what came through earlier from the south. And so as we watch that come in, we'll be looking for that. And then here's the thing, right? There's something called flash freezing.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Right? So after this comes through, the roads are wet, and you're saying, oh yeah, we had a rainstorm, we're good. That temperature falls tonight, tomorrow morning, ice everywhere, not only up here, right, down here in the city, a little bit further down to the south, because that cold air rushing in could freeze those roads out.
And so that depends on, after this moves through, how much drying we might could get. The wind might help that a little bit tonight. So tomorrow, really overnight tonight and tomorrow, even though nothing else is going to be falling from the sky, we're not going to see any more precip, but what you need to be aware of late tonight, overnight, and into tomorrow morning, anything that looks wet on the road is most likely not going to be wet. It is going to be ice.
Right.
And if it dries up enough, then it'll be a little bit better.
Right.
But we can't feel confident. We have to let you know that there will most likely be some slick spots and ice around, because whether or not that dry air and wind will be enough to dry it up as the cold air comes in, that's the big question for tomorrow.
Maybe even on Tuesday morning.
Oh man, 15 degrees Tuesday morning?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And the wind chills on Tuesday morning. The wind chills tomorrow are going to be in the single digits. Wind chills on Tuesday morning are going to be even lower than that. Okay, here's the other thing. Imagine.
Not done yet.
We're talking about ice here in Northeast Georgia. Southwest Georgia right now has a tornado watch.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, tornado watch down to the
Crazy day.
south.
Again, the impacts of the wedge, where we've got the cold air here, but to the south of us, we have that southwest flow coming in.
I think we can show
and
that.
it's not down.
There you go.
The wedge doesn't make it down there.
There
So
you go.
now, again, you were really clear earlier. So, of course, we're in charge of our what we call our viewing area. Upson County right here is as far south as our viewing area goes. So nobody in our viewing area is in this tornado watch, and it's even still south of Macon too. But it's in this part of southwest Georgia where, as this line comes in, it's not cold down there. It's warm. They're probably in the 60s today.
Already thunderstorms approaching Montgomery.
Yeah. So as this part goes into southwest Georgia, they will have the potential for spin-up tornadoes possibly. So here you've got summer-like, spring-like weather down in southwest Georgia. And here we still have a freeze warning. Crazy stuff.
You know, you can't make it up. We can only report what we have. So that's what we're doing, folks, letting you know exactly what could take place and what has already taken place and why you should not be out in this kind of weather. Because, again, I can't stress it enough. If we just said, hey, go on about your business, we'll get some rain in the morning, a little bit of freezing rain, it would have been a mess on the roads. People would have been stuck everywhere. I mean, you really don't want to mess with weather like this. And I know a lot of people are saying, hey, no, it wasn't as bad as we... No, it was as bad as we thought. It was
It's
as bad
still
as we
there.
thought.
And people might be saying, hey, it wasn't a snow jam. Well, thank goodness we didn't have a snow jam, because everybody was at home as advised. And as you say, if they were out there, it would have been a snow jam in some spots there. So you have done an amazing job, as always. You've been here all night long. We're just kind of transitioning over. Danielle Moss and I are going to complete this hour. Melissa Nord's going to be joining us throughout the afternoon as well. So we're going to have you covered all afternoon. Our next focus is going to be the lull that we're in now, the cold air that still persists up in Northeast Georgia, and then tracking this system as it comes through and whether or not that's going to be enough to overtake that wedge up in Northeast Georgia.